Welcome back. This is week 6. My name is TG Sido, and today we're going to focus on images. Let's do it. Okay, so what have we learned so far? We have built-in functions, input, print, variables, infloat, string, boolean, mathematical operators, comparison operators, sternent functions, logical operators, expressions, conditional statements, loops, and functions. And what are we going to do today? So we're going to do setup and intro to images and pixels, getting started with MyImage, and also focusing on accessing individual pixels. So let's get started. Okay, and now for setup. So go ahead and navigate to the week 6 notebook. It's going to be in the description. Go ahead and click that. And once you have that open, you should see this starter pack link. Go ahead and click this. So once you're here, go up here and now go to download. This is going to actually download the zip with all these files. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. Okay, looks like we're good. Click that. And so now you'll see this folder. Now go back to your web browser. And now navigate to My Drive, Collab Notebooks. And now that you're here, let's open this up. Let's select all of these files. And let's click and drag. And so now that these uploads are complete, you can close that. Now let's go back up here and let's try to run this cell, Shift Enter. And now we're at the authorization step, so go ahead and click this link. And so you want to make sure that you're using the Google account where this notebook is. So if you have this, make sure you select the correct Google account. You only have to worry about this if you have like 7 different Gmails, so just keep that in mind. So go ahead and click this. And now specifically for Google Drive access, you can press allow. And now copy this code. I'm going to press this button over here. So I've copied the code, and now I'm going to go back and actually paste the code. Okay, so if you see this, this means you're good to go. If you're having issues, please let me know in the comments and I'll try to help. And now for our intro to images and pixels. Image representation. Okay, so an image is a grid of pixels. Every pixel has an X and Y coordinate. The origin, or 0, 0, right, is actually in the top left corner. That's probably different from what you've seen in the past. And note that X increases when moving right, decreases when moving left. Y increases when moving down and decreases when moving up. Also note that every pixel has a color, which is represented in RGB format. RGB is an additive color model where red, green, and blue are all added together to actually produce the color. And so the color component range that starts at 0, that's the minimum, and goes all the way up to 255, that's the maximum. Okay, and so now for an example grid or example image, we see our first pixel at X is equal to 4, Y is equal to 0. And we see that over here, right? X is equal to 4, that's here, and Y is equal to 0, that's here. So that takes us over here. And then here are the corresponding RGB values to actually produce this color. Next, we go to a pixel at X is equal to 2, Y is equal to 1, okay? X is equal to 2, Y is equal to 1, that takes us here. And then again, the corresponding RGB values to produce this color. Finally, we have a pixel at X is equal to 0 and Y is equal to 2. And then the corresponding RGB values, remember X is equal to 0, Y is equal to 2, that's here. And so that's the pixel that we're looking at. Hey guys, if you're getting value out of this series, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Super, super important. And you'll be able to see all the content coming out of this channel. Now back to the video. Okay, and now to get started with MyImage. So MyImage, it's an image processing library that we will use for our image tasks. It's written for Google Colab and Jupyter Notebooks. Note that it is still under development, so please, please, please let me know if you encounter any bugs or issues while using this. Okay, so to actually get started, if you want to load an image from a file and store it in a MyImage object, you can do this. Image is equal to MyImage, and then you specify the file name there. Next, if you actually want to display that image in the notebook, you can just say image.show. Okay. So let's actually see how this works in our week 6 notebook. Okay, so over here we have monkey file name, we have a string and the path to the specific JPEG file. And then over here we have monkey image is equal to my image, and then we specify that file name. So at this point in time, we've actually created our object, and now we can actually display or show that image in the notebook with MyImage.show. We have this awesome monkey right here. Okay, now back to the slides. And now for accessing individual pixels. Okay, so method 1, we can use a for each style loop. Method 2, we can actually use nested for loops. So for method 1, for pixel and image, and then down here we actually have a comment for the body of the loop to say use the pixel for a task. So in the first iteration, pixel is actually going to refer to the pixel object at x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 0. That's right over here. Now in the next iteration of the loop, pixel is going to refer to the pixel object at x is equal to 1, y is equal to 0. So it just moved over 1. And so we see that pixel refers to a different pixel in the image in every iteration of the loop. Keep that in mind. So in the next iteration, pixel is going to refer to the pixel object at x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 0. And so it's going to continue in that fashion. It's going to move over. So now pixel refers to the pixel object at x is equal to 3 and y is equal to 0. Next, x is equal to 4. And now that it's done with that row, it's going to move down to the next row. And now pixel is going to refer to the pixel object at x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 1. And so you guys see how that works? And now for some image and pixel properties. So every image has properties that we can use. So image.height gives you the height of the image in pixels. And image.width gives you the width of the image in pixels. Also note that every pixel has properties that we can use. So pixel.x gives you the x coordinate in the image. Pixel.y gives you the y coordinate in the image. Pixel.red gives you the red intensity for a specific pixel. And pixel.green gives you the green intensity. Pixel.blue gives you the blue intensity. And note that you can also change or set the pixel RGB values as well. Keep that in mind. And now to the lecture examples. So if we go over here, we see that we have this MyImage object. And so we actually print out river image.height, and we see that over here, this is the height in pixels. And then we have river image.width. We print that out and we can actually see the width in pixels. And now using method 1, we see for pixel, and instead of image, we're using MyImage. That's our object in this case. And we get every pixel. Then we actually calculate the average of the red, green, and blue values. So we have this average over here, and now we actually set the red component to be the average, we set the green component to be the average, and we set the blue component to be the average. And so we're actually changing the red, green, and blue components for every pixel in the image. And finally, we actually show this image now that it's been modified. And so now this is what our monkey looks like. Remember, this is what it was before. Okay? So we do see that change. And so we're using both of those concepts. And now for method 2. Okay, so we have this grid over here. We see our x and we see our y. Another way to look at it is the following. So we have x is equal to 0, x is equal to 1, x is equal to 2, x is equal to 3, x is equal to 4. You guys get it. And now over here for y is equal to 0, y is equal to 1, and y is equal to 2. Note that we want to treat x as a column and y as a row. So our goal here is to iterate over every cell in the grid. And so we want to start at y is equal to 0 or row 0. And so we see that over here, this is our row 0 or y is equal to 0. And we first want to go to the cell at x is equal to 0. Now we want to move to the cell at x is equal to 1, then the cell at x is equal to 2, and so on until we get over here, right? And now that we're done with this entire row, let's actually move down to the next row at y is equal to 1 or row 1. Now again, go to the cell at x is equal to 0, and the cell at x is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that we're done with this row, let's move to the next row at y is equal to 2, go to the cell at x is equal to 0, then x is equal to 1, and then 2, 3, 4, right? Complete this entire row. So you want to go to the row, complete it, go to the next row, complete it, go to the next row, complete it. And so now that we have that, we can actually do that with a nested for loop. So the outer loop is going to handle y, that's the row. And so we see that over here in red. The inner loop is going to handle x, that's the column. And so we see that over here in blue. And so this inner loop is actually going to move you from column to column. And this outer loop is going to actually help move you from row to row. So over here, height is equal to 3. That's the number of rows that we have. We see that over here. And now width is equal to 5. That's the number of columns. We see that up here. And so y is going to set us at row 0, or y is equal to 0. So we see that y takes on the value 0 for now. And now we actually go to the inner loop, and x is going to take on the value 0. So we can start at this cell. So we print that information out. X is equal to 0, y is equal to 0. Okay, now in the next iteration of the inner loop, x is going to be set to 1. And so we've moved over. So now we're at this cell, and let's actually print this information out. X is equal to 1, y is equal to 0. We do the same thing in the next iteration. Now x is equal to 2. In the next iteration, x is equal to 3. So we print that information out. In the next iteration, x is equal to 4. We're going to print that information out. And now we're done with this row. Let's move to the next row. And so note what happens to y. So we're finished with row 0, y is equal to 0, and now we move to row 1, y is equal to 1. So note that y has changed. So over here, y is now 1, and now we're going to go back to the inner loop, and x is going to be set to 0. So we see that over here, y is 1 and x is 0. Let's print that information out. And now in the next iteration of the inner loop, x is going to be set to 1. And we print that information out. So it's moved over 1. And now x is going to be set to 2. We print that information out. And so we get it now, right? We've seen a ton of this. So refer to the lecture notebook if you want to see the complete output. It'll be super, super helpful. So how do we actually use that to access specific pixels? We can use the get pixel method. So to access a pixel at a particular XY, you can use pixel is equal to image.getPixel, and you specify your X and your Y. So remember that X and Y must both be integers. X must be between 0 and width minus 1 inclusive, and Y must be between 0 and height minus 1 inclusive. Keep that in mind. Okay, so we have our width over here is equal to image.width, and our height, which is equal to image.height. And now over here we have for Y in range of height, for X in range of width. And now we're actually going to grab the specific pixel from image at that XY with this. Image.getPixel, and we specify X and Y. And so we're actually grabbing that pixel, we have that here, and now we can use the pixel for a specific task. And now for more image tools. Okay, so to create a blank image with a given width and height, note that this provides a blank canvas that can be used for various image tasks. We can do this. Image is equal to MyImage.create blank image, and then you specify a width and a height. Next, if you want to load an image from a web link and store it in a MyImage object, do this. Image is equal to MyImage.loadImage from link, and then you specify the link string. Okay, now over here to change or set a pixel in an image at a particular XY, use this. Image.setPixel, and then for the specific XY position, then you specify pixel. So you're actually saying, put this pixel in image at this particular XY. Okay, so over here we have our link stir, and then over here we have image is equal to MyImage.loadImage from link, and then we specify that link stir. So now we have this new image object that came from this web link. And remember that we can also load images from files. We saw that earlier in the class. Next, we actually have our out width, which is equal to image.width, and we have our out height, which is equal to image.height. And then we use these two to actually create a new blank canvas image, which we're going to call out image, with MyImage.create blank image, and then we specify that out width and that out height. Note that out width and out height do not have to match the original image's width and height, right? It's always problem specific. In this case, we wanted it to match, but it doesn't always have to. Okay. So now over here, we're actually going to use nested for loops and iterate over all of the pixels in the original image. So we have our for Y in range, image.height, for X in range, image.width. And then we're going to grab the specific pixel out of image at that XY location and store that in image pixel. So we have that here in image pixel. This is from the original image. And now over here, out image, right? This is blank. This is our blank canvas. We're actually taking that image pixel and putting it into out image at this particular XY. So essentially we're just copying the pixels from image, right? That's our original image, to out image in the same position, right? So we're taking it out at this XY and putting it into out image at that same XY. And now finally we say, we we use outImage.show. And so we're just displaying the out image in the notebook.